Hey there guys, today I will show you the most secret and unexpected facts from the 33.0 update, which almost no one knows about. Some of them were not even mentioned by the developers in the patch notes, and one of the facts may directly hint at the next big update 34.0, so get comfortable. Now you will learn what others simply did not notice.
The first thing that just can't be ignored is the new cutting tool. It looks pretty simple, a regular icon, but it works just brilliantly. Now you can take any object, draw a line on it, and it will be cut exactly along this line with perfectly calibrated physics. I tried to make a cut at an angle and both parts really fall, bounce, as if they have their own weight, and you know what's amazing? It works with all objects, NPCs, cars, mechanisms, even whole buildings. At some point, I just cut everything for 10 minutes in a row because it looks hypnotic. Each cut is unique, and you can do whole experiments what will happen if you cut an NPC diagonally or, for example, in half with a chair. Next up is the absolute monster of this update, the blade launcher. This is a weapon that fires actual blades. When I first tested it, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The blades don't just fly out of the barrel, they literally cut through everything in their path, leaving a perfectly smooth edge. If you shoot at a wall, it gets sliced open. If you shoot at a person, their body explodes. And when you turn on the slow motion and watch the blade sink in, it's just magic. I'm sure half of the YouTube videos will now be about experimenting with this weapon. Especially when used in conjunction with the new cutting tool, it's a perfect duo. But if the blade launcher is crazy, then the energy saber is style. This laser sword looks like a direct reference to Star Wars, and it works exactly as we always wanted it to. You pick it up, swing it, and everything it touches is instantly cut. It doesn't matter if it's metal, wood, or an NPC, the result is always equally impressive. The cut remains perfectly straight, as if the object has passed through a plasma cutter. It looks especially cool in the dark. The sword glows, illuminating everything around you, and you feel like a real Jedi. I tried fighting NPCs, and it was epic. The sparks, the light, and the realistic sounds are all done with great attention to detail. Another detail that not everyone notices right away is the new design of the settings. Previously, the menu was quite simple, but now it looks much neater, more modern, and visually pleasing. Everything is aligned, the buttons are smoother, the font is more readable, and the color scheme is softer. It may seem like a small detail, but these small details create a sense of a cleaner and more enjoyable game. This is especially noticeable when you frequently access the settings, as it no longer irritates you but rather pleases the eye. And now the most mysterious part of the update, new mechanisms. They added really a lot, and I'm not kidding when I say that you can get lost in them. Honestly, I still haven't figured out how to use them and what you can do with them, so if you know, please write in the comments. So, update 33.0 is not just an update, it's a real step into the future of the game. The cutting tool, blade launcher, energy saber, redesigned menu, and new mechanisms all make the game fresh, dynamic, and insanely customizable. Now, you can't just destroy, you can create, experiment, and test the laws of physics. But the most interesting part is that I'm sure there's a hidden secret in these new mechanisms or tools that no one has discovered yet. It is possible that there is a combination that opens a hidden item or Easter egg. Therefore, I am already preparing a separate video where I will try to connect energy saber, blade launcher, and new devices and check if this does not activate something unusual. And you, if you want to see this experiment, be sure to like, subscribe, and write in the comments your guesses, what the developers could hide, because, as experience shows, even when it seems that we already know everything, there is always another secret in the game which is just waiting to be found.
Today, I will show you the most secret and little-known facts of the 33.0 update that almost no one has noticed yet. In this update, the developers have literally turned the game upside down, and even physics works differently, and the old experiments look completely different. So be sure to watch this video to the end, because at the end I will show you not just the theory, but a real hint of a future update, which I found right in the game's code. Let's go! Let's start, perhaps, with the most powerful and unexpected. Now the game has a cutting tool, and it literally changes the whole mechanics of Melon Playground. If before everything was limited to explosions, syringes, and bodies that just fell apart, now you can control where and how the fracture will occur. You just draw a line, and the object splits perfectly along it. But that's not even the most interesting part. After the incision, both parts of the object remain physically active, they have weight, inertia, and can even interact with each other. This means that if you, for example, cut a car in half, the upper part will actually collapse down, and the lower part may roll further. Some players are already creating whole gravity experiments, testing how the game calculates the physics of small parts. Plus, the cutting tool works even with objects that were previously considered indestructible. Now you can literally cut a map or interface elements. Some players have even found a way to cut out individual pieces of scenery and move them to other locations. In fact, it's not just a tool, it's the beginning of a new era of physics in Melon Playground, where everything can be modified and redone for yourself. The second fact is related to the most popular item in this update, the energy saber. At first glance, it's just a laser sword, but in fact it hides much more than it seems. Firstly, it can be customized, changing the color of the energy from standard red to bright purple or even acid green. And secondly, it has the highest degree of destruction among all the objects in the game. If you activate the cutting mode and hit the energy saber on the object, then the cutting line will be perfectly clean, without glitches and fragments. But what was even more surprising was that the sword could cut through an NPC with a syringe of immortality, which no item had ever allowed before. This is literally the first tool that violates the rules of immortality, and it suggests that the developers are testing a new damage system. Some players are already suggesting that Energy Saber may be a key element of future events, for example, to destroy giant bosses like Pumpkin Boss 3. After all, if you think about it, adding weapons capable of cutting everything is the perfect preparation for the appearance of creatures that will need to be disassembled. And now, guys, it's time to move on to the third fact, which may seem simple, but if you look closely, there's a lot more hidden in it than it seems. I'm talking about a completely updated settings menu. Yes, maybe someone will think, well, they've changed the design, but in fact it's not that simple. The developers have completely redesigned the interface, made it neater, added new icons, and smooth fonts. And I am sure that this is just the beginning of new developments, that in the next versions we will see not just interface changes, but the appearance of new tabs, for example, experiments or weapon testing. Therefore, be sure to watch the video to the end, because in the next fact I will tell you not only about Endless Ocean, but also about what I found when analyzing the game files and why this may be the largest map in the history of Melon Playground. And so we got to the most mysterious and discussed fact of the update, Endless Ocean. It is this map that has become something of a legend within the community, because they have been talking about it for more than 6 months, but every time it disappears from updates again. So, now I'll tell you everything I've learned. The fact is that many players have noticed that in version 33.0, when starting the game, the inscription Loading Sea Assets appears on the loading screen for a split second. This has never happened before, and this is direct proof that the developers are really working on the ocean map. But that's not all. If you dig a little into the game files, you can see that some of the textures added in this update have names like Wave Surface, Depth Light, and Ocean Reflect. This means that the water already technically exists inside the engine, it's just turned off for now. And now the most interesting thing has begun, the theory that Endless Ocean will have not just an endless expanse of water, but a whole system of LEDs, where each new map is generated in a new way, like a procedural ocean. Imagine, you enter the game, create a new world, and each time the ocean looks different, shipwrecks appear in one place, sunken laboratories in another, and sometimes you can even find a huge sea boss. Many people are sure that this particular map will be the key to the new event, because if you remember the Halloween updates, they always had bosses, hidden objects, and achievements. This means that Endless Ocean will have its own secrets. Perhaps one of them will be associated with the legendary Pumpkin Boss 3. Only now in underwater form. Imagine a metal underwater pumpkin with red eyes, slowly rising from the depths. And if you think about it, adding cutting mechanics in Update 33.0 is an ideal preparation for interacting with underwater objects, because with its help it will be possible to cut parts of ships, submarines, and even underwater creatures. Now imagine if special LEDs appear in Endless Ocean, for example, the Cedo 313 pumpkin, which will lead to a map where there will be rare buildings, and maybe even a portal to an underwater laboratory. According to rumors, this laboratory contains a unique item, something like the Aqua Saber, an underwater version of the Energy Saber that does not lose damage underwater. All this sounds incredible, but many theories in the community are already being confirmed by facts, and this means that the wait is not long at all. The developers themselves said that the map will definitely appear before the end of the year, which means that there are literally a couple of months left. But attention, if all this is true, then Endless Ocean may be the first update to feature not just a location, but a full-fledged story. And that's what will change the game forever. Therefore, if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe right now, because as soon as version 34.0 is released, I will immediately check all the hidden LEDs, all the secret objects, and show you exactly what is hidden at the bottom of the Endless Ocean. And now, guys, it's time to talk about the most important thing. When will update 34.0 be released and what exactly will appear in it? Let's start with the facts. The developers have already confirmed that at least one major update will be released by the end of the year. And if you look at the schedule of previous releases, you can see a clear pattern. Each global update is released approximately once every 2 months. If version 33.0 has been released recently, it means that 34.0 should be expected sometime between the end of November and the middle of December. And that's why it's especially interesting. Just for this period, two events coincide at once: winter holidays and traditional holiday events at Melon Playground. This means that developers can combine the release of the new Endless Ocean map with a festive theme, for example, to make a special winter version of the ocean with icebergs, northern lights, and hidden chests under the ice. But that's where the strangest part begins. The update code 33.0 already mentions the new liquid behavior system, and this, apparently, is not just water. This is a whole physical simulation of liquids that will allow you to interact with water, oil, acid, and even plasma. If this is true, then the next version could be the most technologically advanced ever. Now imagine that they combine this system with cutting mechanics. You will be able to cut the ship, and the water will begin to fill it from the inside. It will be possible to create underwater traps, build stations on the bottom, and maybe even cut up sea creatures, if such really appear. And here's another important hint. Do you remember that Energy Saber was added in update 33.0? According to the idea, this is a weapon that can cut everything. But if you look closely at the effect of his blow, you can notice subtle electrical discharges, as if the energy of the sword interacts with something liquid or plasma. This may be a direct hint that the Energy Saber MK2 will appear in 34.0, an improved version capable of operating underwater or even powered by ocean energy. Now a little bit about the subjects. I am sure that new mechanisms will appear along with Endless Ocean, because many new parts have already been added in 33.0, but not all of them are active. Some mechanisms do not even have a description. They are simply called Testevis or Controller Core. Perhaps these are elements of future underwater vehicles as submarines, drones, or laboratories. Imagine if it becomes possible to create your own underwater bases, connect oxygen, use pumps and filters. This will change the game beyond recognition. Hello everyone, today I will show you 5 proofs that the water boss already exists in Melon Playground. Yes, you heard right. And if you watch this video to the end, you will see for yourself that the appearance of the water boss is not just a fan theory, but really part of a future update. But before you start, there is an important point. Do not turn off the video, because the strongest proof will be at the end. Okay, let's get started. The first proof is the new physics in update 33.0. If you played carefully after the update, you might have noticed that now water and liquids react to cuts in a completely different way. This is especially evident if you cut an NPC or an object standing in the water, and the surface begins to wobble and move in a different way. This means that the developers are already preparing the basis for the water content. They test how objects move and how the effects of incision work in a liquid medium. That is, in fact, ocean physics has already been added, but it has not yet been fully activated. The second proof is hints in the descriptions of the game files. I personally opened the structure of update 33.0 and noticed that in some textures and codes the word aqua is mentioned, aquatic or marine. There was nothing like this before, but now these lines occur several times. This may be a blank for the Endless Ocean map, but some community players already believe that this is related specifically to the water boss, because in the code next to aquatic there are the words spawn and attack pattern. And if you are at least a little familiar with the game, you know that attack pattern is a designation that was previously used only for bosses. And now the third proof, and it's as strange as possible. If you remember when Pumpkin Boss 1 and 2 first appeared in the game, then before their release, similar lines with boss pattern and spawn effect were also found in the files. And now the same thing is happening again. That is, the story literally follows the same scenario. At the time, everyone thought it was just test data, but a week later, Pumpkin Boss 1 and 2 appeared. And now the same thing is happening, only instead of autumn effects, ocean wave and bubble light are mentioned. A coincidence? I don't think so. And now, the most interesting thing is why I'm sure that the water boss already exists, it just can't be called yet. Take a close look at the Dark Forest map. After the 33.0 update, a slight blue tint appears at the bottom of the screen on some devices, like a reflection of water. And this, guys, is not a graphics bug. This is already a visual hint of the approximation of the water content. The developers do this on purpose to whet interest, but not to disclose everything at once. They did the same thing before the Pumpkin event, when the shadows of the bosses started appearing in the files even before the release. So yes, everything adds up to one chain. New physics that gives new water effects, the mention of aquaspawn, and visual hints in locations. This means that the water boss has already been added, but it is currently blocked until version 34.0 is released. The fourth proof is the changes in the code and logic of the game. After the release of Update 33.0, many players noticed that there were mentions of new underwater effects inside the files, although the endless ocean map itself is not yet in the game. This hints that the developers are already preparing the system for underwater. For example, they have changed the particle physics, added new tags to characters like underwater, pressure, and oxygen. And here's the most interesting thing: in the list of effects there is a line ocean boss trigger. It is inactive for now, but the fact that it is already present speaks volumes. Most likely, this is a blank for the event where the water boss will appear for the first time, and it is Endless Ocean that will become the arena for fighting him. So far, this is just a theory, but the community is already discussing that the appearance of this trigger coincides with the moment when they started testing new mechanics for Energy Saber and Blade Launcher, which means that the developers could already be testing underwater combat. I formulate the fifth proof as a reflection on what rewards it is logical to give for defeating such a boss and why exactly these awards indicate the reality of the event itself. I'm not saying that something is already in the code, and I'm not saying that the players have noticed something. I'm just building a few realistic hypotheses about rewards and mechanics that, from the experience of other events, seem most plausible to me. Firstly, if the developers want to make the boss significant to the entire community, then it is logical to give a reward that cannot be obtained by simple farming, but only by passing this particular event. It seems to me that the most likely type of reward is a unique item that changes gameplay, not just a skin. Why? Because previously, the loudest events gave away things that really affect the game. In our case, the underwater boss could give you an item like Pumpkin Core or Ocean Heart, not just a thing for appearance, but a resource or module that can be used in Nano Assembler or in new mechanisms. Such an item can be a consumable for creating rare mods or upgrades for Energy Saber and Blade Launcher. This would explain why they added a new cutting mechanic now. In order to give players a causal relationship later, they learned how to cut. They got the opportunity to get materials from the boss and craft cool things from them. Secondly, there is a high probability that the reward will be account-bound and rare. I expect it to be either a trophy for the collection or unique cosmetics with a functional bonus of, for example, a helmet or mask that gives a small buff in the water, or an effect that allows you to breathe longer underwater. Such a reward motivates players to return to the event and participate in collective attempts, but it does not completely break the balance. This is a typical reward for a boss event. It looks cool and gives you a slight advantage in a specific environment. My third guess is the achievement and the global metric. For defeating a huge underwater boss, it is logical to give a unique achievement with progress for the global leaderboard. This may not just be a beat the boss checkmark, but a series of achievements: defeat the boss solo, win in a cooperative, pass without loss, etc. Such achievements create a long life of content and stimulate entertainment for YouTube challenges, records, guides. If developers want hype, they will give it exactly that. The fourth hypothesis is more interesting and a little risky, that the reward is in the form of a seed or an unlockable area of the map. Defeating the boss opens a rare seed, which generates ruins, chests, and rare recipes. This would allow combining the idea of the boss with the idea of procedural seeds on Endless Ocean, and would give a real reward logic. Players not only received an item, they got access to a new area with content. This approach works great to maintain interest. People will come back, download the database, and explore new sites. The fifth guess is related to sociality and transparency. Developers like to give a few live rewards that are visible to everyone, a special plaque and title in the profile of Abyss Slayer or Ocean Conqueror, and a visual effect next to the nickname in the lobby. This provides social proof and cool material for music videos and shorts. These are the kinds of things that boost viewings. So there will probably be a title plus logo in the profile. Finally, another thought is temporary rewards and the evolution of content. Perhaps the first boss opening will give you a temporary event mode with unique mods or location changes. That is, while the awakening period of the boss lasts, new objects and small Easter eggs appear on the maps, which then disappear. But those who participated receive small evidence of participation, achievements, chests, unique maps. This creates the effect of a unique moment that will fuel discussion in the community. To sum up, I'm not saying that such awards already exist. I'm saying that it's logical to expect exactly these types of rewards if the water boss actually appears. The first is a functional resource, a module pumpkin core Goshen heart for crafting. The second is a rare cosmetics underwater buff. The third is a complex system of achievements and leaderboards. The fourth is unblocking seeds or zones. The fifth is the title and visible signature in the profile, plus temporary events. All these are real and simple things that developers usually use to make a boss event meaningful and long-lasting.